Imagine for a second that for nearly 30 years, a single incredibly high-stakes request lands on the desk of the most powerful person on the planet. This isn't for money or for a treaty. It's a request to start a war. Well, today, we're going to unpack that exact story. It's a wild tale of geopolitical pressure that spans generations.
So, at its heart, what are we talking about here? It's really about one consistent strategic demand, a direct American-led military strike on Iran. And look, this wasn't some casual idea floated in a meeting. This was a relentless push from one of America's closest allies.
And this request wasn't just made once. Nope. It was reportedly brought up in one form or another to 4 different U.S. presidents. We're talking Democrats and Republicans across totally different moments in history.
I mean, just let that sink in. 30 years. Administrations came and went. The world faced all sorts of crises. But this one geopolitical issue, this one ask, it just stayed there, like a constant drumbeat in the background of American foreign policy.
And that right there, that's the central mystery we're digging into. Every single one of them, after looking at all the angles, reportedly landed on the same answer. They said no. So the big question is, why?
To really get why that no was so consistent, we first have to understand just how relentless the request was. I mean, this was a demand that seemed to outlive history itself. And this just lays it out perfectly. You go from the optimism of the post-Cold War 90s with Bill Clinton straight into the war on terror with George W. Bush. Then you have Barack Obama's huge pivot to diplomacy and Joe Biden's focus on containing regional conflicts. The entire world changed again and again. But behind the scenes, that one request to strike Iran, reportedly, it never went away.
So you see the pattern here? According to officials like Rahm Emanuel, for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Iran's nuclear program was the red line. It was seen as an existential threat that had to be stopped before it started. So while America's attention was jumping all over the globe, that one strategic demand, it stayed laser-focused. It's an incredible example of geopolitical persistence.
So this gets us to the absolute core of it. Why would you keep refusing a key ally over and over again? Well, the answer is in this terrifying calculation that every single one of these presidents had to make. What happens on the day after a strike? What was the scenario that was so bad, so dangerous, that 4 different commanders-in-chief from different parties all independently looked at it and decided the risk was just way too high for America?
Now, this isn't just a simple list of bad outcomes. It's a potential cascade of absolute chaos. A strike could mean the Strait of Hormuz slams shut, sending the global oil market into a total panic. It could trigger a massive war with proxies like Hezbollah, lead to direct attacks on U.S. troops, and spill over into already fragile places like Iraq and Syria. And here's the real kicker: a strike could actually make Iran rush to get a bomb faster, not stop them. For every president, the math just didn't add up. It wasn't in America's interest.
Eventually, this constant pressure had to lead somewhere. It reached a major breaking point during the Obama administration, which decided, you know what? We're going to change the whole game. We're moving away from this military question and trying something totally new.
So instead of just saying yes or no to a strike, the Obama strategy was a multi-front assault. You had crippling economic sanctions, sophisticated cyber operations, covert actions to sabotage the program, and, the most controversial part of all, a push for direct nuclear talks.
And that move toward diplomacy, it didn't just cause a little friction. It led to an open, historic clash between the Obama White House and Prime Minister Netanyahu. It took what had been a private debate and blew it up into a very public, high-stakes rivalry. And right there, that's where the whole timeline bends. Okay, so after 3 decades of no and one huge diplomatic showdown, we get to the great unanswered question. We've seen a clear historical pattern, right? But patterns, well, they can always be broken.
This is the question that just hangs over this whole story. If a Democrat like Clinton, a Republican like Bush, and then Democrats Obama and Biden all looked at the same intelligence, all saw the same catastrophic risks, and all came to the exact same conclusion, what could possibly change that calculus? What could make the unthinkable suddenly become thinkable?
And honestly, we can only speculate here. Did the balance of power in the Middle East fundamentally shift? Did domestic politics change the incentives for a president? Was it the terrifying fear that Iran was suddenly just weeks away from a bomb? Or maybe it was just the complicated politics of a president's legacy. This is where the story stops being about what happened and starts being about what could happen next.
And that's really the big takeaway, isn't it? Some challenges, some geopolitical pressures are just so massive that they outlive any one leader. They just get passed down from one administration to the next, like a ticking clock, waiting for the right or maybe the wrong moment in history.
For 30 years, the request never changed. Only the person in the Oval Office did. And that leaves us with this final, kind of haunting thought. After all those decades of refusal, history probably won't remember all the times America said no. It'll only remember the first time someone finally says yes.